The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. A mountain climber named William Hutchison Murray said that, and that belief has accompanied me on the journey I'm about to share with you. But a quote from my cousin is more to the point. You set out with no experience, no money. What you set out to do was about the stupidest idea in the world, like running the marathon with one leg. But, like Murray said, when one definitely commits oneself. Hi, I'm James Michael Reilly, and for the last 22 years, I have been building Underhill, one of the first green roof single-family homes in the state of New Jersey. Now, why would a guy with a degree in English from an Ivy League school who made his career as an actor do such a thing? What does one do when an idea takes hold of you and won't let go? Well, for me, the idea that took hold of me was simple. It'd be really cool to live underground, kind of like a James Bond secret hideout. What do you expect from an actor with a sketch pad? But as I learned more about it, I discovered there were real benefits to what is called earth sheltering or green roof construction. It's a very energy efficient form of construction. If you go just a few feet underground, temperatures are much more stable, so you save money both heating and cooling. Green roof houses reduce stormwater runoff, they reduce the urban heat island effect, and they increase habitat for plants and animals. I mean, that frog is on our living room roof, but he doesn't know that. Some of the downsides are that green roof homes are more expensive to build, banks are unfamiliar with them, and there is a need to educate local building officials. More on that later. And let's not forget the need to educate myself. I'm an actor. My formal training in construction consisted of one 8-week course in masonry at the local Votech school. So I read a bunch of books about construction and architecture, and I created some rough plans. It's a split-level house built into a hillside. In the front is the kitchen level, and from there you can go upstairs to the bedroom level with plenty of windows, or downstairs to other living spaces of the house. By the way, the reason the house is called Underhill is that is Frodo's alias from Lord of the Rings. Yes, I'm a nerd. So once I had a rough plan in place, I went and looked for financing. And I discovered that when banks are considering making a construction loan to build a house, they look for three things. They want a good income, they want a licensed general contractor, and they want comps. That is to say, comparable properties in the area that they can look at to judge it. You can already tell where this is going. So this is how I stacked up. So it was clear that this is going to be pay as you go, out of pocket. Then it was time to look for a structural engineer, someone that could make the decisions to ensure that what I designed would hold up the tons of earth that I was planning to put on the roof. So I talked to various firms, but when they found out I had no experience, I would send them my drawings, they would just stop returning my phone calls. I went to firm after firm, but like he said, the moment one definitely commits oneself. So I'm coming out of therapy one day, and I look down the hall, and I see there's an engineering firm. What have I got to lose? So I go down. It's an older guy near retirement. His name was Ray, kind of curmudgeonly. He took the job. And there were times I thought I was going to lose Ray. We'd be working on some specific aspect of the plans, and he would go, Jim, and I swear, I thought the next words out of his mouth were going to be, I can't do this anymore. You're not an architect. You're not. But thankfully, he just had some specific question which I could answer, and I could breathe again. This is what Ray's work looks like. He made the decisions about wall thickness, what they were made of, how they were reinforced, so I knew my house would hold up. And then I went looking for a site plan engineer, sometimes called a PE. That's the person who places the house on the property, decides where the septic goes, where the well goes. But I'm getting ahead of myself because the first site plan I've created was for a different property. This was a lot I found that was very steep, and a lot of towns have slope ordinances. Thanks, New Jersey. and it was on a dirt road, so I was going to need variances. That is to say, permission from the town to not be in strict conformity with their building code. So I went before the Board of Adjustment. The process took a year. It cost me $14,000 in town fees, attorney fees, engineering fees, and at the end of it, I got a unanimous denial. There's a historian who says that the reason Rome lasted so long is not that because of its successes, it's because of its ability to recover from catastrophic defeat. So it was a depressing, rainy September that I went back to looking at land, and there was nothing in my price range. I was finding cliffs, I was finding swamps, and then my realtor called and said, I found a lot, it's a little more than you wanted to spend. It didn't need any variances. The lady selling it was this amazing person named Vicky. Think New Jersey's answer to Mother Teresa, already with one foot in heaven. One time she said to me, oh, Jim, I just made this dear new friend. He's a Catholic priest. He died about 100 years ago. And I was like, awesome. Anyway, I bring my engineer to see the property. He's shaking my hand. He's like, this is more like it. I put down a deposit. And I go into the town and I say, I'm under contract on a property here and I want to build a green roof house. And the construction official goes, what? And I said, yeah, it's a house with earth on the roof and plants growing up there. And he said, if it ain't code, it ain't getting built in this town. And I felt a vice close on my chest that stayed there for about a month, while I answered every question he had, furnished every piece of paper he asked for, never knowing if he was going to give me this or this. If it ain't code, it ain't getting built in this town. He must have said that 4 more times. One time I just went in to drop off papers with his secretary. She's asking me about the project, and he comes by like a drive-by. He's like, don't worry about it, because if it ain't code, it ain't getting built. I was like, come on, we're just trying to have a conversation. But to his everlasting credit, he did his homework. I found another green roof house in the county. He went down and looked at it. He talked to the state code officials. And one day he called me and he said, yeah, they showed me where in the code book your project fits in, so I can give you a building permit. I still remember where I was standing when I got that call. And now all I had to do was build it. There have been some amazing people who have helped me over the course of this project. This is my friend Joe. He's a director who's worked all over the country, worked off Broadway. I've had a friend who's acted on Broadway. And my friend Carrie helped to build the front wall. She was the radio voice for KY Warming Sensations personal lubricant. We got some famous people around here. Yeah. Anyway, and dozens of other incredible friends that I've known going all the way back to grade school. So the first order of business was to cut down the trees. Now I cut down most of them myself, but for the biggest ones, I hired a pro because logging is one of the 10 most dangerous jobs in America. Once the trees are out of the way, we could start digging the hole. I found a small excavating company, a father and son team. And when I told the father, Alex, that I wanted to build a green roof house, he went, huh, something different? But they did a great job. Unfortunately, we got down like 12 feet and we had solid bedrock. So at that point, we have 2 options. We can blast, or we can do hydraulic rock splitting, where you drill holes in the rock and then you put in hydraulic splitters and you crack them open, is what the product looks like. But this contractor was $150 an hour. So he was working for a week or two. And then he says to me, Alex tells me you're not afraid of work. Folks, if anyone ever asks you if you're afraid of work, the correct answer is yes. I said, no, I'm not afraid of work. And I got the hardest job I have done on this entire project. Drilling holes in granite with a pneumatic rock drill. Picture a jackhammer, but it goes around. It gets too hot to touch. It's 80 pounds and top heavy. You've got to wear a breather mask. And if it gets stuck in the hole, it just starts spinning around and wrapping the hose around itself while you're trying to turn it off. By the time we were done with this phase of the project, I would say that I drilled about 600 holes. But we were down as deep as we needed to be, and then we could form and pour the footings. And the footings are the concrete pads that support the wall all the way around. This is a few days after we poured, and my mom inspecting it with me. She joked once that she hoped she'd live long enough to see the project completed. And she did not. But once the footings were done, we could start building the walls. The below ground walls are made of concrete block, reinforced with rebar, and then filled solid with concrete. This is what it looks like when we were pretty much done with that. For this phase, I hired a lady named Maria. Now, Maria was recommended by the lady who sold me the property. She was from Eastern Europe. I don't know why, but all of her front teeth were gold. She was strong as an ox, spoke like 50 words of English, and she would mix the concrete, and then I would lug it up the ladder in buckets, dump it into the wall, and stuff it down. It was back-breaking work for both of us. So we're taking a break one day, and Maria, who hardly speaks any English, says to me, Gene, I think you die build house. Thanks, Maria. It's very Eastern European of you. But I did not die, and the next phase of walls were the above ground walls, which are made of natural stone, collected right on the property. I mean, you talk about locally sourced. I just go over there, dig up a rock, wash it off, and make a wall out of it. And I would say that over the course of the project, we lifted about 125 tons of rock into the air, most of it by hand. But that's not to say that all of the building materials were free. And over the years, we had the help of some incredible corporate sponsors. Lubrizol and Charlotte Pipe donated all the pipe for the house. Kohler donated the sinks, the toilets, the faucets. Marvin Windows gave us a discount on windows. All these amazing supports because they believed in the project. But there was one other support without whom this would not have happened. In 2007, I was doing a play in Denver. And I went into Whole Foods one day, and there was a really pretty woman in the produce department. And I was scared to talk to her, but I made myself do it. Her name was Nancy. We started dating, and in 2010 we got married. And her pioneering spirit is one of the reasons this house is where it is today. So the same year we got married, we put up the roof beams. Those are steel I-beams, and then on top of those, we did the decking for the roof, which is a product called Lock Deck. Very strong, goes together like a hardwood floor. But now we had to waterproof it, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, you can hire a pro, you can do it yourself, liquid applied, there were sheets you roll out over it. And all I knew was that a green roof house was going to live or die on its waterproofing. And then Providence moved again. I'm sitting in a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan, killing time between auditions, and the guy sitting next to me is watching videos on his computer, and he says to me, "You want to see something?" And I'm like, "Oh God, what?" And it's a video of a guy rappelling off the roof of the Empire State Building. And he says to me, "Yeah, I work for a company that does waterproofing of skyscraper roofs." I said, "What product should I use to waterproof a green roof house?" He goes, "And the product is made in New Jersey." On top of the waterproofing goes rigid foam insulation, and then a tarp as a root stop, and then a drainage medium, crushed stone, and then filter fabric and soil. We got those really heavy things up there by renting a couple of big pieces of equipment. Nancy taught herself to drive a skid steer, which is a 5-ton tracked vehicle with a big scoop on the front. And I used an excavator to lift it up to the roof, a mini excavator, so those only weigh 6 tons. We slept a little better after those were back at the rental agency. But it felt great to be able to actually plant stuff up on the roof, and some of it planted itself from seeds that rode up with the soil. In late 2017, I was performing in the stage version of It's a Wonderful Life at the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. And I was up at the house one day, wandering around, and I saw a crack. Now, this was at a point in the center wall between where a door to the lower level and a door to the upper level almost lined up. And I thought, if that cracks through, is the house going to collapse? I didn't know. I called my engineer, but the number was no longer in service. He had retired. So I found another engineer. They designed a solution, but I was going to have to implement it when it was below freezing every day and when I was about to open a play. So over the course of several weeks, we installed rebar horizontally, we installed it vertically, we enclosed that rebar in wooden formwork. Worries about this consumed me. I would be on stage. One of the characters I was playing was George Bailey's father, saying things like, well, George, I was kind of hoping you'd take over the building and loan. And in my head, I'm thinking, stop thinking about rebar. Get your head in the play. But on Christmas Day, we had no show. And Nancy and I went up there and we filled that wooden formwork with concrete. And when we went back to the actor housing that night, we knew that Underhill was safe. The house became structurally complete when we put the roof on the study. And this is the only roof on the house that is not a green roof. This is a shingled roof, but it's a cone-shaped roof. So it was very complicated to build and to shingle. But when it was done, it felt great to know that even though we still had a lot of interior work to do, structurally, Underhill was complete. This 22-year project has been a gymnasium that's developed my persistence. Persistence can come from a lot of sources. Ego, belief in a higher power, friends who believe in you and don't give up, or serendipitous moments like coming out of therapy and discovering an engineer. But it's a hard fact of the world that some of the worst people in history have been persistent. So good people got to match that. Persistence bends the laws of probability. And we got to make sure it bends toward justice. So in what noble endeavor can you discover that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too? Thank you.